Billionaire mother sees. Black waiter let her disabled. Daughter lead a dance step and her life changes. At the grandest gala of the year, where wealth and elegance filled the air, no one expected the moment that would bring the entire ballroom to silence. The billionaire hostess, a woman who commanded empires and headlines, watched from across the room as her fragile, wheelchair-bound daughter was suddenly on her feet. She wasn't just standing, she was dancing. But the most shocking part wasn't her movement. It was the man beside her. A black waiter, dressed in a simple uniform, wasn't leading her. He let her lead him. The crowd froze. Glasses stopped midair. And for the powerful mother who thought she had seen everything money could buy, her world was about to change forever. Evelyn Harrington was the kind of woman newspapers adored. Self-made, razor-sharp, and worth billions, she was the face of success in every corner of the globe. Known as a titan in finance, she carried herself with the poise of royalty. Her life was built on control of her business, her image, and even her emotions. But in the sanctuary of her sprawling estate, there was one thing she could not command: her daughter, Isabel's health. Born with a degenerative condition, Isabel's legs were too weak to support her. For years, doctors predicted she might never walk unaided. Evelyn, fiercely protective and often consumed by fear, kept her shielded from the scrutiny of society. Yet Isabel was no ordinary child. Though frail in body, her spirit was bright and defiant. She dreamed of twirling in ballrooms, of feeling music guide her steps, of not being the quiet shadow in her mother's glittering world. On the evening of her annual charity gala, Evelyn showcased her empire's influence. The ballroom was alive with power brokers, senators, and celebrities. Guests raised glasses in admiration of her achievements. Isabel sat quietly in her wheelchair at the edge of the crowd, dressed in a satin gown, her eyes tracing the couples sweeping across the polished wooden floor. Among the servers moving silently through the room was Marcus, a young black waiter. He wasn't part of their world of wealth, but he carried himself with quiet dignity. Most guests never even saw him. They only saw the tray in his hands. But when his eyes met Isabel's, he noticed something others had ignored: a yearning, a spark. And in that instant, he made a choice that would change both of their lives, and the life of the billionaire mother watching from the shadows. The orchestra played a lively waltz, the sound swelling through crystal chandeliers and bouncing off marble walls. Couples floated across the floor, their movements effortless, rehearsed, flawless. Marcus stopped near Isabel's chair. She wasn't clapping or smiling like the other onlookers. Instead, her fingers gripped the edge of her gown, her eyes full of longing. Longing to belong, longing to move. Most servers would have ignored it. They had been trained to stay invisible, to glide past the wealthy like ghosts. But Marcus had lived a life of being unseen too, dismissed, underestimated, reduced to what people thought he was. And in Isabel's gaze, he recognized the ache of being trapped in other people's definitions. Quietly, he set his tray down and approached her. Without saying a word, he extended his hand. Not as a servant offering help, but as a gentleman asking a lady to dance. A ripple of shock spread across the nearest tables. A waiter? Approaching the hostess's disabled daughter? Murmurs stirred. Eyebrows arched. A few gasps cut through the music. But Isabel's eyes widened with wonder. No one, not even her doctors, had ever asked her this question without pity. Her hand trembled as she placed it in his. With Marcus's steady support, she pushed herself up. For a heartbeat, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. Slowly, shakily, she rose to her feet. Gasps, whispers, heads turned. But then something remarkable happened. Marcus didn't guide her like a fragile doll. He didn't lead her steps. He let her decide. Isabel took a hesitant step forward. Marcus followed. She paused, gathered strength, and stepped again. Each movement was hers, not his. He mirrored her rhythm, letting her believe she was the one leading the dance. The room fell silent. Couples stopped mid-turn. Conversations died. All eyes were fixed on the young girl and the waiter in the middle of the ballroom. And from across the room, Evelyn Harrington, who had conquered markets, governments, and rivals, froze. Her first instinct was fury. How dare a server touch her daughter, expose her weakness before hundreds of eyes? But as she watched closer, the anger drained into something else. Her daughter wasn't weak. She wasn't humiliated. She was radiant. Isabel's face glowed with joy, her laughter like music itself. In that moment, she wasn't the billionaire's fragile daughter. She was just a little girl living her dream. The orchestra swelled, sensing the shift. Isabel's movements grew bolder. She lifted her chin, guided Marcus with surprising certainty, and for the first time in her life, she led a dance. When the final notes rang out, Isabel spun with Marcus's hand in hers, a triumphant smile breaking across her face. The ballroom erupted into applause. Guests rose to their feet, clapping, some with tears in their eyes. Evelyn stood motionless, her breath caught in her throat. She had spent years shielding Isabel from pity, convinced she was protecting her. But in truth, she had been protecting herself from shame, from loss of control, from vulnerability. And here was her daughter, breaking through all of it with the help of a man society had told Evelyn to overlook. She felt the walls around her heart crumble. Her daughter didn't need shielding. She needed freedom. She needed to be seen. The applause was not for Evelyn's wealth or her empire. It was for Isabel, and for the man who dared to let her shine. As the clapping died down, Marcus gently helped Isabel back into her chair. He didn't bow, didn't ask for recognition. He simply smiled, nodded to her, and quietly returned to his duties as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But for Evelyn Harrington, everything had changed. She crossed the floor, knelt by her daughter, and took her hands. Isabel's eyes sparkled with a joy Evelyn hadn't seen in years. Tears blurred her vision, and for the first time in decades, Evelyn felt humbled, not by rivals or markets, but by truth. The truth that no empire, no fortune, no amount of control could ever replace moments of pure humanity. She glanced at Marcus, blending back into the crowd of servers, unnoticed again. Yet in her heart, she knew he had given her the greatest gift. He had shown her that real power isn't about being seen, it's about seeing others. That night, Evelyn vowed to live differently, to fight not only for profits, but for dignity, to raise her daughter not in the shadow of protection, but in the light of possibility. And for every guest who had witnessed the dance, the memory lingered long after the chandeliers dimmed. They had come for wealth, for prestige, for spectacle. But they left with something far more valuable, a reminder that grace, courage, and love often come from the most unexpected places, because sometimes it takes a single dance, not led by power, but by humility, to change everything. And so the billionaire mother learned, what good is control if it stops us from letting others rise?